Welcome to the Digital Lawyers channel for modern lawyers in the digital nomad era. I'm your host, Yuliana, attorney in Paris and Madrid, and I have the pleasure to interview today my friend and colleague at Los Angeles, attorney Parviz Malakouti. Hello, Parviz.
Hi, Yuliana. Thank you for having me.
So Parviz is what I like to call a digital lawyer, right?
Yes, I'd say so.
I knew him when he was graduating from a master in international arbitration in Paris, and after he left to America and became a digital lawyer. So today, in these very peculiar times we are going through, I would like to discuss the following question. Have we entered a digital lawyer's era? So I've been asking myself this question for over 5 years, and I became myself a digital lawyer. Now that we are attorneys all over the world working from home, and this is a good question. Is this the future of our practice, or is just another way of practicing law? So Parviz, could you please tell us more about you and your experience?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, I'm California licensed. I practice immigration law, which in the United States is a federal practice, which means that the immigration law is the same in every state. And I think we're going to get to that a little bit later in the interview as well. So, first of all, I do think that the present and future of the practice of law, moving towards being a digital lawyer. I would have said that even before COVID-19 hit and, rocked the world and changed the world as we know it. But I actually think that this global pandemic has even further accelerated our move towards basically practicing digitally because so many lawyers have been forced to work at home, lawyers that would normally go into an office. So yes, I definitely think it's not just the future. I think it's actually the present and the future.
It is the present. So actually, that is a very good question, because what is the difference between what we call a digital lawyer and a mobile lawyer? Like a lawyer who is working in a city and goes around and travels. What's the difference between the two of them, in your opinion?
Well, I guess I would ask you the same question as well. But the way I would think about it is that a digital lawyer is able to not just go from location to location and practice or do things related to that location, but basically, able to kind of float around between locations and practice, deal with clients from different jurisdictions, kind of irrespective of where the person is. And I think digital lawyer is a good moniker because so much of it is reliant on our modern use of technology. If you're a tech savvy lawyer, like so many are nowadays, especially in California and Los Angeles, really you can kind of speak to a lot of your clients in such a way, so that they don't even miss you. They don't even maybe necessarily know that you are in a different location.
Okay, so this is a very good insight, and I think that our clients are mobile and digital too now. So what I like to stress out is the difference also about the fact that a normal lawyer, a traditional lawyer is working from an office and is going always to return to this office, and he has a home base, whereas a digital lawyer can live actually independent. He is location independent. So I think you told me before that you were going through this process of being completely location independent.
Yeah, so I guess I think right now I'm kind of a hybrid because I'm licensed in California and I spend more time in Los Angeles than any other place. I love Los Angeles. I do take extensive trips to other places, but I end up coming back to Los Angeles because it's where my social network is, my friends and my family. But yes, that's correct. I have been taking more steps to be able to, stay away from Los Angeles for longer periods of time, and basically work from wherever. So so I guess I am kind of in between, so to speak.
Okay, and so what do you think are the advisable steps to become a digital lawyer?
Excellent question. So the first thing that comes to my mind is having the right mindset and really believing that it's, something that you can do as a lawyer and doesn't make you any less of a lawyer. It doesn't make you a part-time lawyer or an amateur lawyer. You are a real deal, solid, 100% lawyer, working digitally and, working in different locations. So I think the mindset really is the first thing. And I think it's becoming easier for people to get into the right mindset because more people are doing it now. So that would be the first step. The second thing is, I think technology, being able to, going hand in hand with the mindset, understand that you're going to be able to do the vast majority of what you want to do using your laptop and your computer. Okay. And then, of course, using the proper tools, software tools that you and I speak about all the time, Yuliana. Sharing tips about what type of software to use. So I think that's one. I think it helps to have a practice area that is amenable to being a digital lawyer. I think there's some flexibility in this factor, but I think it's something that, a person can do. They can kind of pick their practice area strategically if they want to be a digital lawyer. As I mentioned in the beginning, I'm an immigration attorney. So first of all, it has the benefit of not being a state-specific practice. So I can represent people that live in all different states in the United States, and in fact, internationally, right? I do represent people who are currently living in other countries. As long as the subject matter has to do with immigration to the United States or some sort of relation with immigration status within the United States, I can deal with it. It doesn't matter where the person is located. So I think that's an enormous help. And then going a little bit deeper, Yuliana, foreign language proficiency. Here in the United States, a lot of Americans, a lot of us are, I guess we have the benefit of speaking the language that is the lingua franca in the world. But it always helps to know other languages, to know a second language or even a third and a fourth language. So I'm sure you know that, many of our colleagues, many of our common friends know that. It certainly helps to be able to, speak multiple languages. And that's not just for being a digital lawyer. That's also for, marketing, for having a larger client base. It also just actually helps your profile too. I mean, people think it's sexy to speak multiple languages, and that actually does help your ability as a lawyer to market and kind of, raise your profile. So those are the first things that come to my mind when I think about what somebody does to become a digital lawyer. What do you think?
Well, I think that's great. And one of my questions is about what you said is about the areas of law that can be accommodated for this practice. And I'm just asking myself, we both did arbitration, so international arbitration. I practice international arbitration, and you made, I don't know if you practice it, but you made a degree in international arbitration. That's how we knew each other. And right. My question is, do you think this area of practice, this international arbitration, we can do it from anywhere in the world, and it is possible to be a digital lawyer doing this practice? Or did you choose immigration law because of what you felt about the immigration law, or is it because you wanted to be a digital lawyer and mobile and very agile? And what do you think?
Right. Great question. So first of all, I actually never practiced in international arbitration after graduating. So I didn't get that experience of actually being in the practice of law. I did the practice of arbitration. I didn't choose immigration law with the idea of being a digital lawyer. It actually was very kind of random. When I took the bar exam in California, there's a period of time between when you take the exam and when it's graded. It's about 4 months. I wanted to practice. I wanted to get some good experience. And at the time, my French was at a high level, or high relative to me. And so I basically applied to work at a legal nonprofit, and I looked at the different sections to work in. And one of them was the immigration section. I thought it's something that I could use my French in and my Persian in. So I got into it that way. I ended up enjoying it. And it just so happens that, luckily for me, working in immigration does help you be it is a practice that's amenable to being a digital lawyer. Getting to your question about whether somebody can practice international arbitration and practice digitally, I think so much of it comes down to just a very basic consideration, which is hearings. If you have to attend in-person hearings, whether it be in court or in before an arbitral panel, many, here in the United States, when you have a case in litigation, many steps are taken, discovery, a different motion practice, without actually having to go before a court. But you do have to go before a court, usually, eventually, if you're litigating a case. Arbitration, of course, I never practice it, but of course I did study it, and I know that there are arbitrations that have hearings, and then of course there are arbitrations that actually can be conducted entirely via correspondence. So I think actually a lot of that, whether somebody can practice as the digital lawyer has to do with whether they're going to be able to handle going to hearings, coming back to whatever their home jurisdiction is, or whatever the jurisdiction of the hearing is, or perhaps making an arrangement with other digital lawyers that they are that they trust and are high quality lawyers to basically step in for them during those hearings. So yeah.
Yes, and actually, what you mentioned about hearings, I am a litigation attorney, so I organized the whole activity to be able to do that. And also I organized my location, because I am able to do to advise my clients on other subjects like labor law, and this is very easy to be a digital lawyer when you have only to advise your clients and do memorandum and things like that. But if you do litigation like me, if you practice litigation like me, as you said, eventually you need to go to a hearing. But in France, and I think this COVID crisis is going to implement that more and more. In France, you don't have the possibility right now to do it through video conference, but during the crisis, it is a possibility, and all the procedures are now in writing. So as you said before, like in the United States, a lot of it. And if I need to go to a hearing, an emergency hearing, I'm so close because I chose to be based mainly in Spain, but it's 2 hours away actually from Paris. So I can go from Valencia to Paris in a very short time. So this is one of the questions we are going to discuss after. So about the location, and if you're based in one location, I think you need to be able to go to your, because I tried in Colombia too, and I was not as independent as I am now. I was an associate, and I needed that to be a digital lawyer. But right now, as I can't go to my clients' hearings. I think I think even litigation, you can be a digital lawyer even when you practice litigation.
Just one quick extra point on that. I definitely agree. And I think that goes to the point about how the COVID epidemic is accelerating basically our move as a whole profession, as a practice, towards being able to do things digitally. Here in California, we have something called court call, and some hearings basically can be attended by counsel via telephone, actually. So even in kind of the parts of the law that follow behind the trends, there's still, even at that level, they're starting to come along as well towards the idea that lawyers should be able to practice without having to physically go in a location as often as before. Okay,
right. Great. So just to finish this subject, I think that becoming a digital lawyer is not a thing you do in an instant. You need to prepare like your strategy. You need to organize yourself. You need to say to yourself, what is my area of practice? Can I do it with this area of practice? And what are the steps I need to take towards a digitalization of my firm? Right. So, Parviz, tell us about your digital lawyer's day-to-day life.
Day-to-day life. Well, for okay, for the last 2 weeks, it's been a little bit different. It's been more digital than normal, let's say, because of COVID-19. So I'm currently right now in Henderson, Nevada, which is a suburb of Las Vegas, and I'm self quarantining. Okay, we're not forced to do so right here in Nevada yet, but I think COVID-19 is serious enough that I'm not going out anywhere inside a building. I just go outside to exercise basically, and then when necessary, once every week or two, go pick up groceries with a mask on and gloves on. So so recently, the way it is for me is I typically get up around 6:30 or so. I take an hour and a half, basically, self-care, meditation, eat breakfast, walk, all that. I typically start my days 8 o'clock work-wise. I mean, this changes sometimes, but recently I like the schedule of working 8 to 12, lunch at 12, 12 to 1, and then basically work from 1 to 5 solidly. And then if I feel like going on beyond 5 p.m., sometimes you get a second wind or whatever, I go on beyond 5 p.m. I also try to take the time from 5 p.m. onwards to work on social media presence, marketing, making content, interviewing lawyers such as yourself, kind of doing fun things that also work, for marketing. I try to do them towards the end of the day because it's more of a fun activity. It's something that, requires some concentration, but, not necessarily the same level as doing, legal work, so to speak. So that's been my schedule recently. And then in the evening, I exercise. I typically run or do body weight exercises.
Okay, well, that's amazing because it looks similar to what I do. I actually get up quite early. And after that, I do also meditation, a bit of yoga. And after that, I work straight away because I focus better in the morning. And, when you said like I finish like at 5 and then I do marketing, I've noted that my quality of life being a digital lawyer has improved a lot because I don't have to take transportation. Right now, we are all confined, and we see that we have 2 more hours each day, which is
Right.
a lot.
Right.
So
It is.
even if you are not a lawyer, a complete digital lawyer, I think that it is beneficial for your health, for your mental health, for your health, to just not enjoy the fact that you can work more from home and not taking the stress of, I don't know, in Paris it's horrible, the transportation and the tube, it's just a mess.
Right.
And you gain so much quality of life and so much time that it is really enjoyable to be able to do that,
Right.
So I think that in a daily basis, the attorneys I have interviewed have gained in quality of life. For me, for example, I live in a Spanish city, and I'm working with clients in Paris, so I can charge in my Paris fees. But at the same time, I live in a country where it's less expensive, so I can have a more space, and I'm in a city, and I'm in a very, very, very sunny city. So that's my day-to-day life.
That's great. I mean, certainly I think cost arbitrage is an enormous advantage if you can do that, if you can live in a cheap place and charge in an expensive place. I'm of course licensed in California, and the locations I go to tend to be other cities in the United States, or basically kind of in the Western Hemisphere in North America, Central America, South America. So sometimes I'm able to utilize the cost arbitrage, sometimes not. I will say one thing, and maybe we're going to talk about this later in the interview. One, I don't know if I'd say it's a drawback, but one challenge that comes with being a digital lawyer socially, I've noticed, is I do sometimes miss having other lawyers around me physically in the office. In English here, we say basically there's a term called hallway research, which means basically when you are in an office with a lot of other lawyers, you walk down the hallway and talk to other lawyers and see what they have to say about something. And of course, obviously we have text, we have messaging, we have telephones. You can certainly call other lawyers now and and I do to talk to my colleagues, but there is kind of a little bit of a social work element, in my opinion, in just walking, a couple offices down and opening up the door, or just knocking on the door and just talking to somebody about an issue. So that's something that I've had to kind of replace. I've had to fill in with other types of things, whether they be like digital, meetups with other lawyers, immigration lawyers to, talk about an issue on a call, or basically like happy hours to meet up with them in person, or, things like that. So it's certainly something that I've been able to address, but that was something that surprised me when I first started going more remotely. I didn't think I was going to miss that aspect as much as I did.
Okay. Yes, I think I've been thinking about this aspect because really just the next question actually was, what are the pros and cons of working as a digital lawyer? And we have been discussing right now, like the quality of life is a huge pros. And the other side is that actually we can feel a bit isolated. Sorry. So I think that one of the things that we can construct, and this is why I wanted to do this group, the digital lawyers, and this channel, like to reunite all the digital lawyers, because I think there are some of us, maybe not as many as traditional lawyers, but we are some of us, and not only in English, but also in other languages and in other countries, and this is a great community. And
absolutely.
And also, one of the things I think that can change this aspect is to meet, to organize meets like between digital lawyers. That could be a good idea. And also co-working spaces. Co-working spaces are a way to meet people. And when I see digital nomads who work in IT very often, or marketing or something like that, they have their communities and they go to co-working spaces, and then they have this aspect of. The thing is that I've been thinking a lot about this, and we have a rule in our profession in France. I don't know if that is the case in the United States, but we cannot share our space with other professions. I don't. Is it the same in the United States?
No, it's not the same here.
Okay, it's more flexible. I think that, well, it actually prevents us from knowing other clients actually and potential clients, and this is because of secrets and confidentiality considerations that we have this rule. So Parviz, do you think that traditional law firms will disappear, or what do you think about
I don't think they're going to disappear entirely. I think the balance is shifting numbers wise. I think more people more firms are moving towards the digital model, especially solo practitioners and small firms. Okay, firms with a few lawyers. Let's say, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 lawyers and fewer. I still think there's a space for traditional law firms. Especially law firms that deal with kind of more high-end clients. I still think, at least in the United States and California, there's still a culture among high-end clients, Fortune 500 clients, of coming into an office and seeing the hustle and bustle of a bunch of lawyers and paralegals and secretaries, in a big fancy building and shaking hands. I still think that that's there. So I don't think it's going to disappear entirely, at least not in the foreseeable future. But I just think, as we mentioned, it's going to continue to shift for our generation and the generation beneath us in terms of new lawyers coming up, because there's already data to show that we are moving towards a gig economy, and kind of what goes hand in hand with basically a gig economy is kind of that freedom and flexibility to kind of work where you want to, and hand in hand with that, actually kind of working the hours that you want to work, right? That's kind of something that's becoming more common. The moving away from having fixed hours. So yeah, I still think there's a place for traditional firms.
Okay, and do you think that it is necessary to work in a traditional firm before starting to practice law as a digital lawyer? I ask this because I do think that the experience of a traditional law firm can be necessary to know, like in France at least, theory of law and practice of law is so different. And you need to know actually how you manage your business, what is actually a firm before you. So what do you think about this?
I think it depends on the person. I'm somebody who went to a firm for 3 years. I worked in-house counsel doing civil litigation defense. It was amazing experience for me. That experience was so important to me, both from the standpoint of the practice of law. I did litigation. I litigated cases. I did my first jury trial to verdict there, which was a great experience. But also, it was very important in understanding how to value and segment my time, because we had to bill hours there. Now, I don't, in the practice of law now with immigration, the vast majority of my cases are not billed. They're flat fee. But I still time myself every single time I do a task, actually, because I noticed that when you time yourself and you pretend like you're billing, you perform tasks more efficiently. At least I do. You do them faster. So for me, certainly, it was very, very important to work at a firm. I worked for 3 years there. I don't know if it would necessarily have to have been 3 years, but also when I think about your question, Yuliana, and I think about the other side of it, I have a very close friend of mine who practices litigation. He came out of law school in 2009. He went straight into his own practice. And then he went to a law firm for only 3 months. He only lasted for 3 months. Okay. And then it wasn't for him. He went right back to his own practice and he's soaring. He's doing great. Okay. He has a great practice. Okay. So I don't know. So to your question, I'm not sure how much it has to do with being a digital lawyer, but in terms of general development as a lawyer, I do think that a lot of people have a lot of value from going to a firm for some period of time.
Yes. I think that also when I asked myself this question, it's because of my own experience. I needed some safety financially. So I went step by step. I was first, when I went to a world tour, I visited some countries for 1 year. And after this year, I thought a lot. And then I said to myself, okay, I'm going to do this step by step. And I was first associate, and then I joined a Square, which is a French law firm. And I'm very happy because they give me within a team, all I need to be an independent lawyer, but a partner. Okay, so I'm with a team right now. So this is my next question. So working as a lonely wolf or working in a team?
I like personally working on my own for now. I don't think I'd ever be able to go back to a firm, but as I grow, I do think eventually I'm going to expand to, having staff and other lawyers. I think this suits me because I consider myself a relatively social person. So I socialize with a lot of lawyers, and I feel like it's not that difficult for me to make connections with other lawyers to, whether it be to discuss an issue, to ask their opinion on something, or possibly for referral sources. It's very important, obviously, to have, a referral network of other lawyers. So I think because of my personality, I feel comfortable being on my own rather than with a team for now. But yeah, I do want to expand at some point, with my firm.
Okay, this is great. So we are ending the questions here, but what do you think, from which cities in America is it advisable to practice law? We already discussed a bit of these questions. So do you have a preference in the United States to practice this way, digital lawyer, as a digital lawyer?
Sure. So one other thing that we actually didn't speak about is, in my opinion, the importance of face-to-face contact when you're making contacts with people. Okay, when you're dealing with a lawyer, for referral sources or potentially for clients. Obviously we can do so many things now digitally, most things we can do digitally, but still as human beings, I think we don't feel that same connection over video as we do when a person is sitting across from you. So because of that, I think that's a big factor in favor of moving between big cities, basically, or at least if you're going to be a digital lawyer, at least spending some significant period of time in large cities where there's a network, there's a community of lawyers and community of lawyers in your practice area that you can meet, whether it be for continuing legal education programs, like maybe an hour-long seminar, or maybe just a happy hour at a bar. So I prefer big cities. I'm from Los Angeles, and I love Los Angeles, which is part of the reason I think that I'm kind of comfortable being in that in-between space of being remote versus digital, because I love LA. I'm licensed there, and I also enjoy being there. So I don't feel, a need to be outside of it. But I obviously also love traveling as well. I think Miami is great. I spend a lot of time in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is a smaller city. Everybody knows Las Vegas, but the reality is it is actually a smaller city within the United States. So these are my favorite cities in the United States. I'd say Vegas, Miami, and LA. One other thing that I've noticed that's been important for me, Yuliana, and you probably would, I'm guessing you take the opposite perspective, but it's basically time zones. I hate waking up early. I cannot wake up early, and I don't feel comfortable on a regular basis doing hardcore legal work at 10 o'clock at night. So for me, when I travel, if I have a period of time where I'm expecting to do significant legal work, I want to stay in the Western Hemisphere. So when I took a 2-month trip to Latin America in 2018, I was never more than 3 hours away from Pacific Standard Time. So I went to Dominican Republic, Colombia, your country, of course, Venezuela, Mexico, and I never went more than 3 hours away from my time zone. That to me was very, very important. Other people are a lot better at being able to work at all hours of the night. I know that you lived in Colombia and you were servicing French clients, so maybe you could speak to that. How was it for you as far as the difference in hours?
Well, I've never enjoyed getting up early. But as a matter of fact, in Colombia, they do a lot. Actually, because of the sun is up very early. So like some people get up at 4 a.m. and go to work because of traffic and everything. So I was kind of doing this, like getting up very early to compensate the fact that I was working with an associate in Paris. So for him, it was like 11 o'clock, and for me, it was 5 a.m. But at the beginning, it was hard. But at the same time, you're saying to yourself, like, wow, I'm living a dream. So I'm going to make this effort. I am an attorney in France, and still I have the privilege to go and see my father and my family in Colombia, and to have this quality of life. So for me, this was like, you need to do an effort. And for me, this was the effort. I was prepared to do that.
Nice. Yes. Very nice.
Okay, so we are ending our interview. So this last question is about what we are living right now. Is how does confinement impact your activity? You already talked about it a little bit. So your activity as a digital lawyer, is it easier? Is it different? Is it the same? What do you think?
Okay, a lot of it's the same because as we spoke about previously, I work already digitally. Some of it's different. One thing that I've noticed that has been a big shift is mail, dealing with incoming mail and outgoing mail. The other thing is I still get some potential clients when I'm marketing who want to meet me in person. Okay, so just by way of example, I went through a consultation with a gentleman yesterday. He has a case that's great for me. It's exactly the type of case I do. I feel very good with that type of case. And it came time to sign. And he said, okay, so when do I come down to sign? And I said, oh, I'm sorry, like I'm not meeting with anybody in person until COVID-19, blows over or calms down. And we were at a little bit of an impasse because he was old school. He did not want to sign anything until he met me in person, shook my hand, and saw who I was. So that was something that would not have happened if it wasn't for COVID-19. Now hopefully that client is just delayed and I still sign him. So the two big things that come to my mind are basically the mail, okay, and the meeting in person with clients and with other lawyers, right, to just keep that network growing. Those are the two big ones that come to my mind. And then under the surface, the other thing is kind of mental health, right? I feel good. I still feel happy in self quarantine, as we spoke before we recorded. But I definitely do notice like a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of, yearning to see my friends in person, to see other people, to socialize with other lawyers in person. So that's something that I've been dealing with. I imagine everybody's dealing with it as well.
Yes. Yes, it's quite difficult. So the message I want to say today is that this is because I made an article post about why don't you try to digitalize your law firm? I don't know I think you saw this post, and because we are kind of obliged to do it because of confinement. So what don't you try to see what would be your life if you were a digital lawyer? Right. But that was at the beginning of confinement, and I've realized this is not my normal life. This is not the life I do and the life I have when I am in normal circumstances. Because as you said, so you really need this face-to-face meetings with people, and also my day was organized in another manner. It was like in the morning it was kind of to myself, and then I went to a cafe or a co-working space, and then I met people, and so my day life changed. I was able to go to the beach and work in a cafe in front of the sea. So that was a huge. So my life is not quite the life I had before, but I think that for people that are trying to imagine, like, okay, I'm here at home, and actually, when I worked in a traditional law firm, I felt in confinement all the time in my office. And so, what would you prefer, to be able to move around and choose the place you are, or be in confinement in your office, in your own office? So that is the note I would like to end with. And also, so to the question, is it a digital law era? I think, as you said before, we are going towards this digital law era, but still human contact is going to be essential, and let's not lose human contact. Let's imagine ways to be free and to be able to have a very good balance of work and life. That is what we are actually trying to do. But at the same time, contact is important, and when your client needs to see you in person, try to choose a city which allows you to do that. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. I totally agree. And I mean, the silver lining in this COVID-19 pandemic, right, is how much we're realizing how much we love to be in touch and face-to-face with one another. So the way I'm imagining it is, once we get past this, we'll go back to normal, but we're just going to appreciate the face-to-face interaction even more, while also strengthening our muscles to be able, to work from home and do different things, because we have to now. So, yeah.
Okay, Parviz. So I think we end up here, and it has been a huge pleasure to have you in my very first video in this channel. So please, if you have any comment, please share your thoughts, and share with Parviz, who is very active in the group, and with me. Sure. We are available. Thank you.
Absolutely, Parviz. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Yuliana.
Bye.
Bye.